Hello friends, Erica with 10 Pigs and Crowns, and I am back today with week 5, with a process video for week 5 of the Take 4 Fishers of Men, the 5th issue, a devotional from Open Journey. And I'm actually really sad about this. This was actually a really good devotional. It was a very convicting devotional. And so journaling my last entry is kind of bittersweet. But I am excited for the next one. It's titled Blessed. But yeah, this is what my last entry for this devotional looked like. And if you want to see how this all came together, just stick around. Before I put this video on fast forward, I do want to add a disclaimer. The rest of this video may seem gloomy. It's been raining a lot here, and so excuse me for that. The rest of the video may seem kind of dark as opposed to this one. This one was recorded after the fact, and so today there's moments of sunshine that I took advantage of, and so that's why the rest of the video will look different. And so I just want to apologize for that, but let's get started. Okay, friends, I'm putting the video on fast forward, and I once again want to apologize for the video quality. I know it's kind of dark and gloomy. It was just raining, and it was really hard to kind of, get those moments or catch those moments when it was a little brighter. So again, I apologize for that. So here are some elements that I put aside that I believe I'm going to go ahead and use for this entry. This is from the white sticker paper, the matte paper. And this is that one where I thought it was the world, or I'm sorry, not the world, the sonar, like a sonar sound. Don't know what I was thinking, but that's what I thought it was. And I really wanted to use this half sheet of the sticker paper. I wanted to use some of the what do you call those? The seal stickers, I guess, from the add-on packets. And some of these die cuts. Now, these die cuts are actually particular or more, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, belonging to the last kit heart cut, I believe it was. Yep, that was it. I just glanced over. And so, yes, it was pertaining to the heart cut add-on die cuts. And so I actually printed these off the digital kit because I used up all of my die cuts from the heart cut series. So this is when those digitals come in handy. Before I glue anything down, I usually arrange the elements to see what I feel the placement is going to be. And so here, this is just what I'm doing. I'm putting the elements down, moving them around, kind of doing some beforehand guesswork. There was some elements that I wanted to include on the right side, like those bright orangey red flowers, because I kind of wanted to balance out the red of the boat from the left side. Here, I apologize. My computer was messing up. I'm not really sure if it was the Wi-Fi or if it was just my computer in general, which is what I'm probably leaning to. It's been having a lot of issues. So it seems to overheat, and so when I'm recording or editing or exporting, it's starting to delete some of my feed or some of my scenes from the video, and I'm not entirely sure why. So it did delete that part where I worked on the background, and I apologize for that. I'm not sure again what happened, but I will make that up by doing the background on my next video, so you can kind of get an idea on how I created that. And really all I did is I grabbed the large alpha stamps that are available at openjourney.faith, and I just stamped out and speckled egg feed my lambs over and over and over again until I ran out of space. I also used the scripts element from the Fishers of Men stamp set to stamp in, I believe it was hickory smoke, just in random places. I did want to knock down off some of that bright speckled distress color from the Feed My Lamb stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and use the white gesso. But first, I'm going to actually attach this sticker sheet onto my page first, because I'm going to go ahead and try to use the white gesso to kind of blend that into the background, so there's a more seamless, feel to it. And I want to thank Lindsay Decor because she was the one that shared, or this is actually where I learned it from, where you kind of cut off a piece of the sticker backing of anything that you want to adhere to the page. And so what that does, it creates a hinge, so you have a very flawless way of applying the sticker down onto your page. So it doesn't create wrinkles, and it doesn't, sometimes it catches and then your whole sticker is off. So by using the hinge hack has changed the way I apply the stickers to my pages. So I will use it. It's a tried and true method, and I will continue to use it from here on out. Um, Here I go in with the white gesso and just kind of lightly apply some in random places. But my little spatula wasn't working quite right. So you see me, I took out an old Amazon gift card that was gifted to me a couple years back, and it's one that I've been using for a couple of years now. And so that, because it has a longer straighter or width, it helps smooth over the gesso, especially because mine's pretty old, so it's very very stiff compared to when you first buy it. It's very pliable. But mine's a little tough, so I want to use up as much as I can before I actually, have to go buy another one. Just trying to be frugal. When applying the gesso to the sticker, I concentrated mainly on the top. I did put quite a bit on the bottom just to kind of blend it in, but most of that is actually going to be covered up by the boat element die cut. So I wasn't too worried about it looking, not spread out enough or, properly. Because again, it was going to get covered up. So I'll focus more on when I apply it on other spaces that I know is not going to be, completely covered up. Guess so. By nature dries up pretty or fairly quickly. But for recording purposes, I used the heat gun to make sure that it was completely dry. Because now I'm going to add more color, more texture, more stamps, or more inks. And I didn't want none of that to, get stuck on my stuff, my elements, and my stamps. But also because when you apply ink to white gesso, it tends to absorb the colors. So I know I didn't want to do that, but I also didn't want to get it all over my hands. When it's nice and dry, I go back in to play with the placement of my elements. I know I wanted that seal that said follow me, kind of like the boat was carrying that seal. Don't ask me why I thought that was a great idea, but I liked it. And so then I add a little bit of flowers, not much, and some of the greenery from the Heart Cut series. Here you see me actually trying to recreate some of that blue. I used the Distress Paint Mermaid like Lagoon for that. And what I did is I kind of just tore apart a Ziploc bag. I didn't have any other plastics here, so I had to get one from the kitchen. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dilute the Distress Paint with a little bit of water, and I'm gonna use the Ziploc bag and kind of crinkle it to kind of recreate the blue spots from that sticker sheet. I'm not really sure what it was, but I really did want to incorporate it with the rest of the page because, I'm trying to blend in that sticker with the background. I don't want it to kind of just stick out like a sore thumb. So adding the blue, I felt would, kind of blend it in and add more texture and, interest to my page. And right about now, I was kind of debating whether crinkling up the plastic actually, kind of gave me the same effect. So I kind of just folded it and attempted to see if that would work better. Um, when I applied it, it kind of seemed like it was working better that way. So I just continued to use it folded up. When I was done with the bigger splotches, I went ahead and used a smaller fine tip brush because I did want to add splatters. It did have some on the sticker page, so I thought that, incorporating it with the rest of the page would, make it more seamless and blend it in better. And I didn't actually do a lot of these splatters. It does look like I'm doing that a lot, but for some reason it just really wasn't, coming off the brush. I also went in with the small brush with onto the big splatters to kind of move around some of those or some of the distress paint to kind of give it more just to move it around because it was kind of very stark and I just kind of wanted to dilute it as well. When using different mediums, or for every step of and process of it, you want to go ahead and make sure to use your heat gun to make sure that any ink or any medium is completely dried up, because you're always gonna run into the problem if it's not dried up. The ink is gonna move, the gesso is gonna get onto stuff that you didn't mean for it to get on, and so there's always mistakes kind of bound to happen. So using the heat gun every once in a while after a couple of steps is always a good idea. You saw me decide that I was going to commit to the placement of the elements on the bottom left hand corner of the page, of the journaling page. And so I'm going to start out with gluing down some of the flowers so it kind of gives me a starting point. And then I'm going to go ahead and add glue to the boat. But I'm not going to press the element onto the page fully because I want to tuck in some stuff behind the boat as well. So, but I do want to make sure that it's, not going to go anywhere. And then I go ahead and apply glue to the rest of the elements. When I'm gluing down very detailed, intricate die cuts, yes, I do go ahead and apply a little bit of glue onto the smallest portion, or as small as I can get glue onto. And then I like to actually press down and to make sure that none of the edges are lifting up. Because when you try to store or shelf your journals, sometimes they tend to peel off because they're not completely glued onto the page fully. Here you see me perform what we call surgery on my die cuts. I wanted some more green on the bottom of the boat, but I didn't want to use the whole element as a piece, as a whole. So you'll see me cut off a little bit of the greenery from the branches to apply it to the bottom flowers, to see, just to make it blend in better, kind of like more cohesive, more organic. After applying those two pieces, I do cut more greenery off, thinking that I'll be able to apply more leaves to the bottom because I did want just a little bit more green. But because of the detail and how it fell, I knew I wasn't going to be happy with how it was going to fall apart. So I cut it up again. I cut a little piece more again, once again, and then I tried to add it and then removed it again because I didn't like it. Just kind of floating by itself. Sometimes surgery works, sometimes it doesn't. And now I'm going to go ahead and start working on the right journaling page. With this sticker, I knew in my mind I was going to try to use some of that foam to try to elevate the sticker or raise the sticker up off the page. But sticker paper itself is kind of thin and flimsy, and I wanted it to be a little bit more sturdy. So what I decided to do was to adhere it to a piece of cardstock. So I'm going to add some glue to the back of the sticker, and then I'm going to apply the sticker to cardstock and then cut around the seal. Hindsight, it probably would have worked best if I didn't cut up to the edge when I first cut out the sticker, because then to try to follow that same line guide was kind of difficult, and that's why you see me edit that out, because it took me a long time to try to make sure that I wasn't cutting the sticker itself. So every time I use the foams, I actually apply a dab of glue to it before adhering it to whatever element I'm going to, elevate off the page, because I found that eventually the adhesive or the glue on the foam, it wears off and then it'll fall out of your page or fall off your page. And so I feel like, trying to secure that, adding extra glue as a security layer has worked out so far really good for me. So will forever, glue down the foam onto the element before, instead of just adhering the foam to the piece. And if you feel like I'm always playing with the placement of the elements, you're absolutely right. Something about moving them off the page and then moving them back onto the page, it seems like I never get the quite the same placement from what I originally started. So you'll always see me kind of fuss with it and play with it to kind of, try to see if I can, reignite that thought of where I originally had set them. But sometimes, not going in the direction that I had originally planned turns out to be better. Like, for example, here, something about the placement didn't quite feel right. And I knew in my mind it was something that I had already committed to before. And I was like, what went wrong? Um, so I decided to reach for some extra colored ribbon. Now, Ingrid used to pack her devotionals in little canvas bags, and then she used to tie all the items that came in the kit, the physical kit, with ribbon so that she could slide them into the little canvas bag, drawstring canvas bag. And this is what I'm actually using. She would personally hand dye all these ribbons with colors that coordinated with that particular kit. So I'm not really sure where this blue ribbon came from. I'm pretty sure maybe it was Advent because it's kind of blue, but she had used other colors for other kits, or used blue for other kits. So I'm not really sure where it came from, but sticking with the theme of being frugal, I use up every part of Ingrid's packaging, and sometimes, it could be from items that are newer, or sometimes I just kind of hoard items that I know I will use eventually. And so this ribbon is probably from who knows when. So, just make sure you upcycle what you can. If you in your mind know you're not going to use it, then, go ahead and get rid of it. But I know that I like to use little bits and pieces of the packaging because it just adds more interest, more depth, more texture. It just, draws the eye, gives it more attention. I also use a very tiny bit of cheesecloth on top just to kind of like knock down and, kind of offset the green from the blue, because at first I thought it matched the blue pretty well, but then when I laid it on the paper, it was more green than it was blue. And so by using the cheesecloth as kind of like in reference to, like, the net, the casting of the net, or that's how I interpret it in my mind. um, I liked how it kind of, made it blend in more seamlessly. However, I didn't quite like it still. I loved it. I loved the idea behind it once I put the cheesecloth, but I wanted to draw the attention away from the green. And then I remembered that Ingrid has tiny words, word focus. Hold on just a second. Word focus small sticker words, and they come in a little jar. They are still available in her shop. And so I wanted to use a word that kind of represented everything that I've been learning and been reading and been studying, but also that God has been placing on my heart. And metanoia, I believe is how you pronounce this word, is what kind of stuck out to me when I was going through the words. There was another one that, other words that kind of, fit in really well with this journaling page, but I really, really was set on using this word. And so I'm going to go ahead and use this word, and then I use a little bit of the distress ink. At first, I believed I used the gray, and I didn't quite like how it wasn't too dark, so then I used the black VersaFine ink. I also wanted to maintain some of the interactive, flowy movements that fabric has. So instead of gluing the fabric down onto the page, I went ahead and used that little tiny stapler. I believe that's what it's called, from Tim Holtz, and I stapled the fabric onto the word, or the tiny word, because again I wanted it to kind of have a more natural flow. I didn't want it to just be stuck onto the page. However, I think I stapled it wrong or too far in, and so you'll see me kind of fuss with it to kind of pull it apart and pull and tug on it, because I think I didn't quite, I stapled it too far in. But I didn't want to, pull it apart or anything, because I didn't want to ruin the fabric and I didn't want to ruin the tiny word focus card. So you'll see me kind of play with the other elements to kind of see if I can hide, um, what I feel was, the fabric, misplaced on the element. I did use a small dab of glue or drop of glue on the fabric behind the tiny word focus word, and because when I tugged on it, it just seemed like it was retreating again and again. So I didn't want that. I wanted the fabric to extend a little bit more, and by placing that small dot, it allowed for the fabric to, kind of stay in place where I wanted it to stay. At first, I wanted the tiny word focus, I don't know what to call a sticker, to go underneath the seal of the image of Jesus and the girl in the boat. But the more I played with the fabric, I just liked how it kind of laid better if I added the word or placed the word on top of the seal on the bottom. I just liked how it flowed better, as opposed to it being underneath the seal. And I'm sure that there's probably a better way to adhere elements onto your page without moving them, instead of trying to, little by little add dabs of glue to make sure that, you don't move your elements. But until I find that out, this is how I work, and how I probably will continue to place the elements. I made sure to get every piece of leaf of that one die cut, and adhere it to the glue very well. And then I add that small little orange red maybe flower, because again, I wanted to balance off the red from the page on the left, and make sure that, there's still some of that red element on the right hand side. And I'm playing with the placement of the die cuts again. But this one I actually have a good excuse. There was strings, and I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, from the cheesecloth and the actual fabric, some frays that were going on, and so I just couldn't quite get a die cut to stay in one place. When I moved the other, or moved the other die cuts, it would move the ones that I had already placed in my mind. And so there was this game of like tug of war, and I tried to use the tweezers, and it kind of helped out. So then I start trying to glue down a little bit of the pieces at a time, because again, I don't want them to move, but I couldn't. I don't work in clusters. Sometimes I do, but it's very rare, and it's always more strategically, or more so because I'm working on an element that's kind of, elevated off the page, kind of like the seal. I glued down the little sunflower or the yellow flower onto it, because the sunflower or the flower, that yellow flower, is going to be on top of the seal, so I might as well just glue it down. So that's as far as my cluster gluing goes. Everything else I probably do, glue down one piece at a time. That's just how my brain works better. um, clusters, they seem, kind of intimidating to me, I guess I should say. Somewhere along the line of me tug warring with the phrase, got me frustrated, I will admit. And so what I decided to do was to place the tiny word behind the seal. I had originally really wanted it to be on the top. I just liked how it flowed better. But because of the phrase and the movement of it, I was getting a little bit frustrated, because I didn't want it to be all over the page. So I did use a little bit of glue only on the part that has the tiny word. So whatever is overhang of, like, the fabric that's overhanging on some of the word, I'm gonna let it be. When I started putting some of my stuff away, I noticed that there was a white outline flower, and I was kind of dumbfounded because I thought I had placed all the elements that I wanted to place. So that's kind of what you see me do here right now. I just wanted to make sure that it was included, kind of like an afterthought gluing. For the last step, or what I think is going to be the last step, um, I went back and forth between using the acrylic ink in my little fine tip bottle. This is actually one of my favorite ways to write in my journaling pages. Sometimes it can get a little bit messy, but it's still one of my favorite ways to write. Um, and I went between that and the alpha stamps. I went back and forth, and I decided against the alpha stamps because I had already used them for the background. So I decided to go with the acrylic ink. But it left a lot of white space feel to this page, especially to the right side. So I added, or I grabbed the Fisher's Amends stamp set, and I used the script element to kind of fill in where I thought, felt a little, empty. And it still wasn't enough. And so I decided to bring that red color, or add more pops of red. So it felt a little bit more visually, balanced. Which I'm happy with, because had I used the big alpha stamps, I think it would have taken up a lot of room, which would have covered, in essence, the blank spots, or the white spaces. But I like this because it still leaves me room with, or it still leaves for room for me to write my prayers or thoughts off camera. So here I grabbed the With You stamp set, and I'm using I'm using the little cross elements. This is actually one of my favorite stamps to use to fill in some of that, empty spaces. I do want to add that I never actually use the full element stamp for this. I usually only apply ink to like one or two or three crosses, and then rotate the stamp around. I've never actually used all of the crosses in one stamp. And this is the end result of my journaling page. I'm really, really happy and love the way that it all turned out. I especially liked the background, which was inspired by one of Ingrid's videos or journaling entries. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping by, and until next time, bye.